this is Sudhir Matta. I'm the VP of Products at Mist. This is a video I created with the inspiration of Chris Broussard. He's a Fox Sports analyst. My son, who's an avid basketball fan, sent me this video. And I thought this was profound in how Chris laid it out. So I figured I'll create a couple of slides on how I thought about the word obsessive. So, first, let's watch the 3-minute clip from Chris Broussard, Fox Sports analyst, about obsessive.
Yesterday, he arrived, of course he did, at the Summer League to watch his young Laker teammates. Some won't make the team, some will. He knew their games, he knew their names, he knew their strengths, he knew their weaknesses. People there say LeBron was like a coach. Of course he was. There are words in America that get a bad rap. Let me give you one. Obsessive. When you say obsessive, people are like, whoa, that guy is obsessive. Obsessive, my friends, is the difference between great and legendary. I often bring stars on the couch here, football stars, sometimes comic stars, and Tony Gonzalez said recently, I said, what percent of guys are committed? And Tony Gonzalez, Hall of Fame tight end, says 60% of NFL players do the bare minimum. So they take what the man upstairs, God gave them, and they just do the bare minimum. That's over half. And then I asked Tony, how many guys are committed? And he's like, maybe 30%. And I'm like, Tony, really committed? And he's like me? I said, yeah, 3%. 3%. I watched something interesting this weekend. It was on the New York Times website. It's Jerry Seinfeld, who's not a great comic. He's a legend, a 500 million plus net worth. There's 1 million slappies at the comic store this week trying to make their cable bill. There's 1 million comedians who have a great set. Jerry is a legend. He is a legend. Greatest show by any comedian ever. Best stand-up arguably ever. He is a legend. And he talks about writing a single joke about a Pop-Tart. It took him 2 years. He talks about every comma and every syllable, how he's never thrown away a great joke. He keeps them on yellow pads. And he worked 2 years on a joke. Remember Tom versus Time? When Tom Brady, there's a moment when Tom Brady in the offseason is looking at Cincinnati Bengals preseason video and calls his offensive coordinator. He's not playing him next week. He's not playing him in the next month. It's off season. And he calls Josh McDaniels about the way the Bengals line up. Folks, obsessive gets a bad rap. It's the difference between great, and there's a lot of great comics and a lot of great basketball players and a lot of great quarterbacks, and legends. Magic, Jerry Seinfeld, LeBron James, Tom Brady. Of course LeBron was at the Summer League. Of course he had a front row seat. Of course he knew everybody's name. Of course he knew everybody's game. The stories this weekend, he knew every player, signed, unsigned, will make the roster, won't. He sits down with Magic. He knows every single analytic on every guy, telling Magic as Magic acknowledges he knew the roster better than I did. Folks, there's 1 million guys in New York, LA, Chicago, London, Barcelona that are big and tall and fast and strong. Some will be pro athletes, some don't care about sports. But LeBron James, you get all that and a complete, utter commitment. And when I saw him at the Summer League, that's what I thought. Of course he was there. Of course he'd memorized every player. Of course he knew the roster better than Magic. That's great to legend, obsessiveness.
So let's take the word obsessive. I thought Chris laid it out perfectly. Obsessive is what separates great from legendary. So today I want to talk about how we translate this to our context, to the context of product managers, sales engineers, sales teams, sales development reps, inside ISRs, inside sales reps, whoever it is. If you're in a startup, if you're in a company, you're trying to break in, if you're going from good to great, if you're trying to disrupt an industry that is stuck in inertia and legacy, You need to be obsessive. Now, what should you be obsessive about? And this is key. And this is why I created this, because as I was going through this, what should we obsess about? First, number one rule of what you need to obsess about is stuff that you have in your control. It's critical. You let the world play it out like it does, with or without you. You have an opportunity to change it in your direction if you obsess about stuff that you have in your control. So, now what do you obsess about? What I personally obsess about, running a sales engineering team or a product management team or a sales team, I obsess about our customers. Know your customers intimately, study them. In this day and age, it is inexcusable for you not to know what the values of your customer are on their website, what the initiatives of your customer are on their website, what matters to them, what problems are they trying to solve. Know your customers, understand what success means to them, and then invest in it. It's critical. Don't peddle boxes. Don't peddle solutions that you think will solve some archaic problems. Understand your customers and position to solving their problems that matter to them. This is critical. Invest in your customer success. And if you're in product management, if you're building a startup, if you're building a product, obsess about your customers' problems, not your competitor's portfolio. Your customers' problems is where the answer is. If you think of what Uber did, it's very simple. They solved very basic problems and fundamentally have transformed the transportation industry, the public transit industry as we know it, right? Obsess about your customers. What Apple did, where a 1 year old can turn on an iPhone and bring on a game and play a game. What an incredible piece of technology. Obsess about your customers. If you're in a B2B business, if you're selling through partners, obsess about your partners just the same. Know them, study them, understand what matters to them, understand what success means to them. It could be in product margins, it could be in services revenue, it could be in expansion, it could be in landing new logos. Know what matters to them this particular year, this very moment, and align and invest in their success. This is foundational, especially if you're in a startup. Last but not least, if you're in sales, if you're in product management, know your competitors. Know them intently. The playbooks of your competitors are out there. Study them. It's shameful, it's inexcusable, it's abhorrible that you don't take the time to understand a playbook that is public and out there, day in and day out when you're going to battle in front of customers. It's not taken lightly. It's inexcusable. Understand your customers' strengths. They've built their products for a purpose. The one advantage you have, if you're a startup, you're starting afresh. You're starting with a clean slate of paper. You don't have the burden of legacy. You don't have the burden of install base. You can intently focus and just solve the problems that matter for today and this day and age, and solve for the problems that matter for the next 10 years. You don't have to look back for the last 15 years. The number one thing that holds customers back is inertia, because they're tied down to their legacy. But if you as a startup have 5 features and your competitor that's been in business for 20 years has 500 features, the good news is the 5 features you built matter to customers. Articulate what they are and why they matter. And that always means you fight on your terms. When you have the battle on your turf, on your terms, there's a very high probability of winning it. In all of this, in a competitive battle, in a competitive argument, Make sure your takedown is crisp. Make sure the knockout punch lands. Don't say artificial intelligence will change the world and solve all your problems. Say, hey, with our product, help desk can take questions and solve problems in less than a minute. Be simple about it. Be crisp about it in your takedowns. If you do all of this, if you do all of this, my friends, if you be obsessive, my friends, you will live to be legendary. Thank you very much.